Hello. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing this morning? No coffee, it seems. Hello. Hey, my name's Disha. Sorry, I'm hitting my mic here. My name's Disha. I work for Office Marketing at Microsoft. This is my colleague, Scott. He is a wonderful demoer. He's going to do some amazing demos for us today. And we're going to talk to you about redefining modern productivity with Office 365 ProPlus. Let's go into what we're going to talk about. So there's 3 pieces to today's session. We're going to talk about what ProPlus is. I'm assuming most of you know, but we'll still cover it really quickly. Then we'll go into why you need ProPlus now. This is kind of where we'll spend the bulk of this session. We're going to spend our time talking about what makes it exciting and what makes it the thing that you really, really need for your organization. And then finally, we'll come to next steps. So with that, let me go into the next slide. Oh, even before I do go there, my goal from this presentation, really simple. By the time you all walk out of this room, you know that you want ProPlus, and you're thinking about your next steps to deploy ProPlus in your organization. There's tools and resources at the end of this presentation, which I'll show you, and I'll ask you to go and sort of look at those and figure out your next steps. With that, let's go to what ProPlus is. How many of you have ProPlus deployed in your organizations? Show of hands. Woohoo! That is pretty awesome. How many of you have Office 2016, the perpetual version? Okay, about the same. I'm seeing, I don't know, like 2/3. How many of you have Office 2013 in your organization? Okay. And 2010? Very few. Awesome. Great. This will be a good session because you will see what the difference is between ProPlus and all of those versions of Office. And we'll talk to you about how ProPlus is really become richer over time. So what is ProPlus? So many of you have it. 1/3 of you said that you have ProPlus already deployed in your organization. But let me still talk about what it is and how it is different from our perpetual versions. ProPlus is all the Office apps that you know and love. It's Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, which I'm assuming most of you who are looking into your PCs are right now looking at Outlook. So it's that set of apps that you know and love and you use. But not only do you use it, the IT folks, it's the folks that are in your organization that spend a lot of time within these apps. So, I mean, these apps have been around forever. We've all used them forever. We know them forever. What makes ProPlus different? Why are we telling you today that ProPlus is the most amazing way to get these apps? Well, the thing about ProPlus is it's always up to date. What that means is that not only are we adding security fixes and compliance features into your apps, we're also adding a ton of end-user functionality into apps on a regular basis. ProPlus always stays up to date, which means the functionality of the apps keeps getting enhanced over and over and over and over again. It means that you don't have to try to figure out what's the next thing, what does my organization need now. The apps are continuously adding more functionality and getting richer and richer and richer. Now, many of you will say, well, you know, when I use Word, I use the standard 3 things, and those 3 things that I use, those are really valuable to me, and I don't really feel like I need to use any more. Well, I will say that in today's session, you should give us a chance to convince you otherwise. So I'm also going to make an assertion at the very beginning here. And my assertion is it's time for you all to deploy ProPlus. I saw about a third of the room already had ProPlus deployed, and that's awesome. But for the rest of the 2/3 of you, it is absolutely time to deploy ProPlus. And the next slide will tell you exactly why. Got it? Yep? Is it crystal clear? Who didn't get it? All right. Now you know. Whoever didn't get it knows now. Yes? Everyone in the room. What's happening? That's right. That's right. The cheese keeps moving. The cheese keeps moving. The world keeps changing. Digital trends are changing the way the people work. It's changing the way the workplace works. It's changing the way you need to work, right? It's hard. It's hard to keep up with what's happening. Employees work on nearly 2 times the number of teams that they used to. 2 times the number of teams that they used to 5 years ago. And this is accelerating. I bet in another 3 years when I come and talk to you at Ignite again, it would be 4 times, 6 times. Who knows? There's so many more people we need to keep track of. There's so many more people we need to talk to. There's so many things we need to keep a sense of and be aware of just to do our jobs right. It's not the same workplace. 41% of employees say mobile business apps are changing the way they work. 41% of employees are using mobile business apps. Are you using the mobile business apps in your organization? Is your workforce ready to go into the world and be available when they need to be? Information overload wastes 25% of employee time. I heard a statistic in one of the sessions yesterday that was pretty amazing to me. GE, which is this huge company, we all know GE, is trying to increase worker productivity by 5%. For that one company, that means $6.2 billion. Can you imagine going to your CEO and saying, we have a way to increase worker productivity by 5%. Forget about 5%, 1%. Every CEO in the world will look up and say, that's amazing. Figure out how to do it. Right? And then there's the statistics that don't even make sense anymore. 160 million customer records leaked. This is from before Equifax, right? You can just double that. That's right. 230 days, 229 days to detect security infiltration. It takes that kind of time for us to figure out that somebody's breached our system. It takes that kind of time to warn our customers, to warn our employees, to warn pretty much anyone that something is not right. And finally, my favorite one. 80% of employees admit to using non-approved SaaS apps in their jobs. 4 out of 5 people in your organization are using something that you're not aware of, that doesn't meet your compliance standards, that doesn't meet your security requirements, that sends data outside of your firewalls. 4 out of 5 people. That's a lot of people. So what do? I'll come back to my point. It's a really simple point. It's time to deploy ProPlus. Why? There's 3 reasons, but all of these reasons are kind of wrapped up in the slide that I presented just before that, right? Exciting end user innovation. Your end users are looking for the right way to do their jobs, for tools that help them keep on top of all the changes that they're seeing, these teams that are multiplying, and they see this in their consumer lives. They see apps in their consumer lives that are amazing, and they're like, I wish I could have this at work, right? Well, Office and Office ProPlus offers you a comprehensive suite of apps. We're innovating constantly. We're adding new apps in there. We're adding new functionality into the apps. it gives end users what they need. They need to be on the cutting edge, and that's what Office ProPlus gives them. Intelligent security that's always up to date. What does that mean? Well, we could sort of give you a set of security definitions. We could give you a set of updated, here's the latest threats, patches, and information, and we could say, that's it. Figure it out. But wouldn't it be great if we could warn you ahead of time, if it could be preventative rather than curing your problem? If you could just know that this many threats were sort of approached by people in your organization. If you could know that these are links frequented by people in your organization, and there's some danger in there. And once something bad occurs, so first, prevent anything bad from happening. But when something does happen, wouldn't it be great if your security system just kind of knew, like your stock software, it's time to sell. It's time to go do something. It's time to go fix it. It's time to shut down systems. That is the promise of intelligent security that's always up to date. First, it will prevent things from happening. Second, when they do happen, it will take decisions, sometimes without human intervention. The control is in your hands. You decide what happens without your intervention. But that's the story of intelligent security with Office ProPlus. And the third one here really is around proactive management. What is proactive management? Click to Run is the deployment technology that we use for ProPlus. We're adding a ton of functionality for you to be able to manage and control that better. But we're not doing that in isolation. We understand that most of you think of desktops as one big bucket, and you think about your OS on those client desktops in the same breath as you think about your Office apps, right? Our vision is to start working together with the Windows team and EMS team. You've heard M365 all over the place, I'm betting by now, right? Our vision is to work together to get to a place where you can use the same tools, you can see the same update cadence, and we've made some progress there. We have the same twice-a-year update cadence. And you can start being proactive with your management. You can see how many apps in your organization are not compatible or are compatible and have no danger from upgrading or updating. There's a ton of management capabilities that are already in there, and that's where we're investing a lot of our time and effort going forward. So I'll just reiterate. It's time to deploy ProPlus. Well, there's also a few imperatives that kind of make it an interesting time, and the time where you should start evaluating it or actually doing something about it. There's two things happening with those client desktops that I talked about. One, Windows 7 goes out of support in January of 2020. So anyway, you have to touch those desktops. Anyway, you have to be on the latest supported version, Windows 10. And then we announced this in, I think, April this year. We announced in April this year that if you have any services in the back end, if you have Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, you will require either Office 365 Pro Plus or whatever the next version of Office is, Office Perpetual is, to connect to those services. It's clear. The imperative is clear. The need from your organization is clear. And so I say to you, it's time to deploy ProPlus. Now, I'm going to spend a lot of time today talking about this first thing, the exciting end-user innovation piece of ProPlus. I spoke to you about intelligent security. I spoke to you about management tools. I will come back and hit them off a little bit in the end. But this is where I'm going to concentrate and spend the bulk of this session, because I really want to talk to you about what is exciting, what has changed about the apps you know and love. And there's a ton that's changed, right? If you see the If you kind of see the thing at the top where I say 150 features since Office 2016, that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we launched Office 2016. That was the most up-to-date version of Office there was at that point. No longer. There's a ton more that we've added. There's a ton of functionality that we've added to make things easier for you. And no matter what app you use, how many of you use Word on a daily basis? Great. How many of you use Excel on a daily basis? Wow, bigger chunk of the room. How many of you use PowerPoint? Occasionally? A lot more. And how many of you use Outlook? Woohoo! The whole room, right? All these apps that you know and love, they remain the apps you know and love, but they have so much richness that you haven't explored yet. And so much of it has been added in the last 2 years, and it really is not about this one button somewhere that has a little piece of functionality. These are really things that make your lives easier, that help you keep on top of that increasing pile of contacts, information that you need to deal with. And there's really you've heard two pillars, I think, in the last 2 days, or in the last day, especially since you've been here, around M365. One has been teamwork, and the other has been creativity. So if you look at the first half of the slide, which is author grade content, find what you need, analyze with ease, that really is about your creativity. All of that stuff helps you create better. As an individual, it gives you the right resources to find the things you need, to leverage the resources you need, to build on the work of others, to get to a place where you can where you can do your best work. And then if you look to the right of the screen, all that stuff is really around collaborating better with people, sharing files with people, making sure that if you've made an update and somebody overwrote it, you can go back to the previous version. You're now able to work together with those teams in such a seamless way, something that you've not expected from Office, that you've not seen with Office, but it has come to Office. Especially if you've deployed ProPlus, you will be able to see that. Okay. There were some people in the room who were interested in Word. So we're going to talk about Word a little bit. Word's added a ton of new features. I haven't listed every feature here, because if I took those 150 features and started listing every one of them, there'd be a ton. You'd all be a little bored as I spoke through each one of them. And frankly, my session evaluation would suck. But not only that, honestly, we've added some really impactful features, and I've tried to put the ones that I think are the most impactful. This is my personal favorite list. I'm hoping by the time we come back to Ignite next year, some of you have your personal favorite list that you can say, oh, no, I think this other feature is so much cooler. But let me hit off these very quickly, and then Scott will demo some of them, some of his favorites out of these. So editor. Editors helps you edit. It helps you find errors which are not just spelling errors. It helps suggest to you what's a better way of writing. Researcher. It helps you research content. It helps you pull in content from outside into your documents, which is something we all do, right? Whether it's your kid writing a book report, or whether it's you drafting the final version of a report, and you want to use something from another report you wrote some time ago, that's what Researcher does. Tap, again, very much similar, find and reuse the stuff that you created. Learning tools is actually really, really delightful. It's delightful because it's great for you, it's great for your kids, and it just takes Word to the next level. And you will see it in a minute. And then Translator. I don't have to explain the value of any of these. These are all really, really rich functions. And if you have ProPlus and if you have deployed them, many of these are already in your builds, in your organization. I encourage you to go try them. With that, I'll give it to Scott.
Great. Thank you very much, Disha. Appreciate it. All right, hey everyone, I'm Scott. I work on the Office Product Marketing team with Disha here, and I'll be walking you through some demos. Let's start off with Word here together. Let's just switch our inputs. And what I want to draw attention to is what Disha called out before. A lot of you are on ProPlus already. A lot of you have probably been using Office since before you can even remember. If you're on 2010 today, that's already about 7 years, and you think about all those versions you've already been with. It's common to feel like you know everything there already is to know about Office, or I kind of know the way I like to work. And that's why it's really important to think about. We're innovating in areas that feel familiar, like the editor space becoming a next generation version of that, or in some of those demos we'll show you as well, it's something you might not have even considered before. Something like the learning tools familiarity or translations directly in your document. So we're balancing that need to keep bringing you forward to 2017 in the future in areas you've already felt comfortable with, as well as hopefully helping you to really amplify your creativity in all different ways. So let's take a look here together in Word. Right now I'm working on my Contoso next generation product planning for our nice camera. One of the first things I like to do, of course, once I've finished writing most of my content, is do a quick spell check. And now that's powered by Editor. So let's go in here to the first area, and I'm going to notice this red squiggle. It looks like I made a silly typo here. This is a game-changing product. And that's probably not a word, as far as I can tell. So normally when we would go and click in, it would just simply say, changing. It would tell me that's the only answer. But what if this was a word I was a little less comfortable with? I didn't always know how to spell exactly. Even if I saw it written down, it takes me a moment to be sure I'm getting it right. So here you can actually see there's synonyms under each word. So I can see it's altering, exchanging, or varying. So I can be sure that's the exact right one, even if I'm not always confident in how to spell it myself. And if that's not enough, we can even go ahead and have the word read aloud to us to be doubly sure as we check in that the spelling's right, the synonym's right, and we're ready to go. That's especially helpful if maybe you're not working in your native tongue or most proficient language, so you can be sure it's matching what you think it is. The next one, if we see a blue double underline here. And keep track of what I'm saying. We have a red squiggle followed by the double blue underline. That'll come in handy in just a moment. This is our simple grammar check. And this one's just to add a comma. No big deal. We've got a sense of what's going on here. But what I want to pay attention to now, this is the one that gets me really excited, and is our most new functionality in Editor. It's this dotted gold line. So let's take a quick second to read this sentence. This release, it is absolutely essential that we be different. I felt pretty good about that sentence, but it looks like Word's got some other thoughts in mind to help me out. Let's click in. It's actually recommending a new approach to how I write this sentence. It's saying, hey, you could be a bit more clear, maybe even more concise, less verbose than this guy that's demoing. Let's shorten these words up. So I'm going to go ahead and actually click Essential. And just like that, I can shorten the word and be getting advice in how to really perfect my approach to writing. And I'm in control of these types of critiques. I can decide how I like to speak. You know, I always heard from my English teacher, try not to use the passive voice. But sometimes that's just how I like to communicate. I live in the Pacific Northwest. We are passive aggressive. I'm turning off that critique for sure. So what's really cool in how I was saying, there's the red squiggle, the double blue underline, and then the gold dotted line as well. Because we've now changed up the color scheme as well as the look of it, if you have different impairments such as being colorblind or just visual differences, you can actually just at a quick glance feel more comfortable and be sure that you're going to get the critiques that you need no matter how you interact with a Word document. So now that we've got some of the grammar cleaned up, let's keep on moving through our document here as we review. So now I've hit the screen specifications area. That looks like it's in Japanese. I've been working with one of my teammates over in Japan. A lot of great innovation for cameras comes from that region. Does anyone here happen to speak Japanese? No. Huh. Neither do I. So it's probably not going to be too helpful if I leave the document like this and you try to read and figure out what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead now and switch over to our review tab. And I want to show you something pretty cool that we just rolled out to insiders this past week. You can actually now, right inside of your document, translate a selection or an entire document at once. Because most of this is in English, my native tongue, we're just going to choose to translate a selection. So now that pops in the pane, and this is all powered by Microsoft Bing's translation services. I'll go ahead and we'll highlight the content here. And you see on the right-hand side, immediately, it auto-detected. It understood it was Japanese already with no inputs from me in real time. And then underneath it, I now have that live translation. I can understand what's happening in English. And now that I have a sense of what it is, I think I'm going to go ahead and insert it. So let's do that together. And just like that, it's in English. which is pretty great. Now I have this full document I can feel confident in. But even better, take a note here. It's actually still in bold in the English, and you can notice that in the Japanese auto-detect. So what does that mean if you're working with an international audience? Somebody that's over in Japan in this example, they're really critiquing and crafting those words perfectly. Maybe they even used editor right before this to be sure of how they wanted to demonstrate their language and their thoughts. Well, with the emphasis and the formatting maintained, you never lose a step, even if you're working on the international level. So it's really easy to keep everyone on a level playing field as your business takes it on to the next step in a global world. So now that we've worked through our grammar as well as our Japanese, we've learned a little bit here. We'll have a test at the end, see if anyone knows any new characters. Let's go ahead and step into one of the features that's most close to me and near and dear in my heart. It's really all about being able to understand the content. So just a moment ago, none of us here were able to read that Japanese. Well, a lot of the time, a document like this in English, which I imagine we're all comfortable speaking with, some people feel like they can't read this because they have learning differences, things like dyslexia or dysgraphia. So a document that might feel approachable for you actually is a more intimidating experience for many of your colleagues. It's actually reported in the workforce that 1 in 5 people have learning differences of this nature, but they feel concerned with sharing that, concerns of being held back, promotions, et cetera. So Microsoft takes this approach where we actually build accessibility directly into the product. So anyone, without quite having to raise their hand and say, I need this extra help, can get what they need done. So now that we're in the View tab, I'm going to enable Learning Tools. And the first thing you'll notice is now we've zoomed in, we've cleared out some of that word content and given us some space. And the letters themselves actually have some spacing between them, helping to understand and focus in on the words. The next thing you can do that's great is you can actually create a high contrast mode, which helps out different people with different needs, such as this black and white one, or even the sepia tone, since different tones are helpful for different people. The next great aspect as well, if we turn on this syllabification mode, each syllable again breaks down, and it's even easier to see what each fact is. And then the final step here that helps bring this to life for a lot of different people is we can actually go ahead and read aloud this content. So let's check that out.
This new camera helps you save time by uploading
So look at
content
that.
more
It's reading
reliably
to
than
us
any other on
just
the market.
like that in an easy to
That
understand
makes this
way.
better than any version.
And each word's being highlighted as you're going, so you can follow along. And the even cooler part, this isn't just in English. We could have done that same Japanese section just a moment ago with Learning Tools right now. So this is another way that we're really focused on inclusivity, accessibility, and helping you and your end users to really feel empowered to interact and become better writers and feel more confident in their abilities to communicate in the office. So with that, that's a little bit of Word. I'll hand it back to Disha to keep taking you through the rest of the Office suite. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Did you guys like that? How many of you have English as their second language? Wouldn't it be cool if you knew exactly how to pronounce every single word? Because that's what it does. For me, that was an amazing, amazing thing of when I first came to the US, I didn't say everything the way it was meant to be said. The syllables were different, the sounds were different. And so if I was in US English, I could use those learning tools for myself. I use them with my kids for learning. It's amazing what Word can do. So it is the same familiar word, but it's different, just because it's Office 365 ProPlus. All right, this was the app where, outside of Outlook, pretty much everyone said this is the app that is the most popular one, the one that you use a lot. And we all work in a global environment. Scott talked about it a minute ago where he said, hey, you can talk to your colleagues in Japanese, they can edit documents, you can understand their emphasis, all of that. But how many of you, at some point or the other, been involved in, I don't know, a global deployment of some software? And then you have to figure out which sites are working, which sites are not working, how are things progressing? And then somebody asks you, can you tell me a little bit about this? What happened here? And you spend your time, writing this down on a slide, or you have all these Excel sheets, but you don't know how to depict it. Well, Maps in Excel helps you take global data and show it in a chart format. So you can start to see how the world looks from the eyes of your problem. There's publish to Power BI, which is, well, you create a report, and you want to talk about that report, and you want everyone to look at it in Excel, but that doesn't always happen. You need end users to see those reports using Power BI, and Excel does that directly now. There's co-authoring. How many of you have had an Excel file lock up on you when you were trying to work with somebody? Whoa, 2 people in the room. All right, 3. Awesome. That was a big, big, big pain point that we heard from our Excel customers. Customers wanted to use Excel in conjunction with others. While they were working on things like budgets, they were working on reports, they wanted input from their colleagues. And it was impossible to work with Excel in a multi-user fashion where all these different users can input values at the same time. You can see what's happening. That is actually one of the exciting demos that Scott's going to share with us today. And then what I would say, the next 2 features, these are new features. They haven't shown up in Excel yet. They will soon. Actually take Excel to a whole new level. Excel is the world's favorite analysis tool. But imagine a world where Excel could really understand what you were saying to it. It could understand things like, India is a country, Seattle is a city, Microsoft is a stock, and it could say to you, this is what I know, this is what the world knows, this is what the internet knows about these things. Do you want to play around with those things as separate from, India is a piece of text, Microsoft is another piece of text. So Excel is just taking this next step in recognizing real-world objects and providing you their attributes to play with. It's also taking this next step where it doesn't depend on your level of expertise, the insights you can glean from your data. So if you're a power user of Excel, you can still get amazing insights. But if you're not, and you've been given reams and reams of data to analyze and to figure out what the insights are, Insights helps you with that. With that, I'll turn it back to Scott to talk about Excel.
All right, gang. We're going to do something that's a little bit fun, a little bit scary for me as your demoer, but if you'll take a journey, hopefully we get rewarded on this one. So we're going to walk you through a couple of these new features that are still in a lot of internal code. We've actually got some of the engineers in the audience that helped build that. I won't quite point them out in case this goes wrong, so we don't have a mob in our hands. But just know they're here to be a little proud if it works, and we just won't point them out if it doesn't. And this is why we work together in testing things before we roll out, right? That's how those channels work and all that fun as we go to our monthly deployment in ProPlus next, after we feel excited about these demos. So the first thing I want to think about here together with you is Excel. As Disha just called out, in the past, we felt really comfortable as a product, of course, understanding certain words and certain numbers. But your end users, they aren't necessarily as comfortable as some of you are in the audience as Excel users. And so some of these functionalities are going to help you and your users feel confident, whether you're a bit of a novice or an expert. And that same feature actually can help both of you in different ways. So we'll walk that through together. We're getting ready to roll out to you 2 new data types around stock and cities. So let's take a look here. We've got a list of our stock, Microsoft, and Intel, and I'm going to just type in Snap for Snapchat. All right, we are about to crash Excel. I can feel this coming since that just didn't, yep, okay. I'm also a bit omniscient and clairvoyant. So if you'll just bear with me, we're going to restart this in a second. I'm going to give this a second try. Otherwise, I've recorded this in advance because it's so important to me that you all get a chance to see this, and we'll talk through a bit of that video. So as I kind of stall here for a moment as IT pros, you've never had somebody call you and say, my product broke, please help me. And they couldn't tell you anything that was broken, right? You weren't able to help them in any way. You just kind of say, I don't know. If you don't help me, I can't help you. And at this point, we've almost been done with our small talk. So let's hop back into Excel. Thank you, folks, for bearing with me. I'm going to just go ahead and browse real quick. We'll get to the desktop and see if our second time is our lucky charm here. You know, my teammate Jen said she would do an interpretive dance if I have to go to a third version of this. So I don't know if we want to get there or not, but hopefully this works. All right, so let's pull up this again one last time and see what we got. So we're back in the stocks now. We'll go ahead and type in snap. All right, well, this is the fun of internal code. I'm really sorry about that. This is about to crash on us again. Once that gets out of the way, I'm going to just show you a video and walk you through this experience.
So guys, these are the features that I told you about that are not in the code yet. These will show up over time, and we are really excited about them. But rest assured, like every other feature that comes to the apps, these will be tested, and these will be ready for you when you get them. And they do really expand Excel's capabilities in amazing ways.
All right, so luckily, I planned ahead, like we said. So let's just talk this through together. As we go ahead and type in a snap here, for example, you'll see we're actually able to understand that it's a stock. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to keep on just kind of clicking and pausing here just to make sure we can kind of chat it through. And once we go ahead and put in these words, Microsoft Excel starts to recognize these are actually data types. These are stock options. So we converted it from that simple word to an actual stock, and now it's going ahead and pulling in real data from the web. If you look up here in the formula bar, it's making a call out to Bing, really tapping into the global knowledge and what's accessible to you in a web browser. So from there, now that we have a sense of some of the data accessible to us, you can actually go ahead and either type in another factor, like ticker, or go ahead and start typing the ticker word so that the Microsoft NASDAQ symbol shows up, snap, etc. And then you can even go ahead and much more simply go ahead and click that plus button on the top and start picking different areas you want so it builds out that table for you. So we'll go ahead and we'll set up a few things here to feel more comfortable. And now that we have a basic table set up, we can actually go ahead and just type in another word, Starbucks, and it understands that's relating to the actual NASDAQ application itself. And finally, one last trick up our sleeve, you can also just type in the ticker itself immediately. So that moves pretty quick. Let me just take a second to step back and make sure we all understand what's happening. It actually creates a table for you automatically after that third stock is created, and you acknowledge this is a data type, not just a word. And then you have the option of either typing in something on the top row, like the ticker, for example, or adding it in to keep going pretty quickly. Or you can also join in by typing in a full word of a company, like Starbucks, and it'll auto-populate because it's part of that table set. And then you can also use just the NASDAQ symbol, which is what you just saw with Facebook, that FB. So this is pretty cool. You're actually bringing in information from the web. A lot of the time, if you were putting together this type of content, you'd have to go off to the internet, you'd be searching for it, copying, pasting back and forth, and the product wouldn't even understand necessarily how they were interacting with each other. Now, without ever leaving Excel, it understands what you're doing, and it pulls in that new information. And that's for stocks. So let's take a look at our next data type we're getting excited to roll out, and that's cities. So here, similarly, we'll type in a word, Seattle, and it'll start to recognize, oh, that word has meaning. It's a city. We can get that preview card, get an overview of the information available to us, and start typing in something like state. And it'll pop in and give us an opportunity, followed by the quick search of just grabbing a few pieces of key information. And then, again, it's a table, so it auto-formats and auto-references that data. And now what's about to happen here, I'm going to take a second to pause. This is really cool. It's a table, and it's also actually sourcing all of that information directly into the cell. So it's not just that one tiny cell that's perfect and smart now, and if you do just barely the wrong thing, it'll break. You can actually interact with it the same way you would a lot of your other information, making references and making calls. And so what's happening here as we head down to row number 11, we're actually making a call up top to reference that information in our cell H4. Everything that's inside of that Orlando is a city content is fully accessible through the rest of the Excel notebook. So here, we're picking out that we want to have another piece of information pulled in, such as what's incorporated, or sorry, what city that was. And you can actually notice on top here, we can then go ahead and alter it again and pick out what we want to do. So notice here, on the bottom right, it says July 31st, 1875. And then on the top, in the formula area, it's actually referencing that it's what was incorporated in cell H4, which is Orlando. So this is pretty cool. These are brand new data types that are smart words that mean things. There's not just simple text anymore. And even better, sometimes you're not even going to realize this is the data type we now have available to you. As we keep on rolling this out and you keep hitting that ProPlus deployment every month, new things are going to come to you. As marketers, we hope you see what we send you, and we hope you drive some awareness. But you might not always, or your end user might not. So what's really cool is even without knowing necessarily what the data type is, Excel knows for you. So whether you're a novice user and you don't even know this is available to you, it'll generate. Or you're more of a pro and you know this is going to happen, you can plan ahead and get ready to go and have that table the way you want it to. So that's our brand new data types. The next thing I'm going to take you through is also some demo code. So don't worry, we also have a backup video just in case this one doesn't quite go as planned. But I hope that video was okay. Did that work out for you folks? Do you feel like you got a sense of what was going on? Great question. Do you have anything?
Connect at least once to get the data to come in.
To fetch it, and then once it's done, you've got like an instance of the data.
Then you can work with the data that's already recognized and established. But let's say you were offline, you already had it in stocks, and you pull the data in, you've already got the feed into the tool, then you were just out of stocks. But if you move to cities, so you had you were offline at that point, you still need to go fetch that.
But would it be able to, like, let's say you did something and have just a handful of cities, and you then connected online, would you be able to understand that maybe you might have that data type kind of prompt you about creating the affiliation?
There's more to come on that. So future. Yes.
I'll ask you to pause. Well, let's go ahead with this, and at the end, there's enough time for Q&A. Don't worry. So with that, Scott, go back to your demo.
Awesome. Thank you for the question, and thank you, Jen, for helping us out. So I promised you that we're going to have some features that help you out whether you are a novice or a real expert in the Excel world. And this next one, that's also getting ready to roll out, but it's still a bit of internal code, is a really cool one. This one is all about driving insights. Even if you're a pro with Excel, as soon as you hit a certain number of cells of data or rows, you probably have a bit of trouble in your mind trying to grasp what's happening here. What's all this information? What are all the steps I want to take to try to tease out the curiosities and questions I have and the answers for myself and my team? Well, with our new capability that's getting ready to roll out called Insights, we actually can use machine learning and intelligence to run almost every single permutation. That's thousands of them, all in just a few seconds to analyze this data and start walking you through different insights and learnings. So what I did was I just took a look here at our table. I hit our insights on the top right, and it starts pulling in these really simple charts with the insight as the title. So in some cases, it's something simple, like what's just the sum of the units by year, generations, et cetera. And you start to see the different color coding also pulls in for the formats. And there's even pie charts when it's more appropriate here, that little donut. You can even show more. So I'm going to notice here one that's a bit interesting to me. I'm curious of how come the units are growing by generation of 4G in Japan. And now this is where we get to go a bit more to the expert step. So I'll hit to insert chart here. And I bet you all know what this is. You now have a pivot chart and a pivot table that you can manipulate. So the first thing we learn for ourselves is, there's a bit of an increase here in these sales over time. But as an expert, and you're trying to figure out what's happening with all this phone data you're seeing, you're trying to wonder, okay, well, what operating system is driving that sale? Maybe I want to make sure to enable my salespeople to then go ahead and be selling the right version of the OS, not just say blindly, great work, you're selling a lot these years. You want to keep on driving that momentum forwards. So with that in mind, I'll go into our pivot table, and I'm just going to drag over the OS into our, where do our columns go? Oh, there we go. So you pull it over there, and it actually breaks it out right away. So we just went from that one blue line to now we have the orange. And that's a familiar functionality with the data on top to prove out to us, it looks like this litware is really dominating our sales. So if I want to enable my sales force, I'm going to tell them to go use more and more of this OS in comparison to the prosware. So let's take a step back, because that can happen kind of quickly if we're not sure of what I'm hitting on. We just went in a few seconds from thousands of rows of data that we couldn't even necessarily grok, might not have always known the question we wanted to ask ourselves to get to the endpoint of that data, to understanding the basic model with those first few charts, finding the thing we were curious of, what's driving sales, and then as a bit of our expert step or advanced step, we started manipulating that data in real time, just like we would have had we been the one to figure out that original chart. So that's going to save you time, and it's really going to amplify your opportunity to drive insights with your business to make an informed decision. And this is what we're calling our Insight service. It's getting ready to roll out over the next few months, and we're really excited about this one. What you may not know about me is I'm actually a complete amateur with Excel, so I am so excited to use this back home. This is going to be perfect for my job. So with that last thing in mind here of our 2 scary demos, I'm going to step into a confident demo as well. So let's go ahead, and we're going to switch our persona for just a moment. Now, we were just driving those sales. We were thinking about our phone data, et cetera. But now it's time to take a step back and think about our broader business. And guess what? I need to work on this document with a lot of my teammates. It's the budget, and I don't own every aspect of it. So I actually sent out this document in advance to a couple of my teammates, and I'm really hoping they're working with me on this because we're on a crunch. So I hop into the document myself, and I actually notice, wow, on the top right in our collab corner, 2 of my teammates are there. And I can see immediately where they are. We see Dave's in E25, Jen's over here in H20. Dave, Jen, give a wave. Let them know you're real people. They're hanging out here with me. And as they start kind of moving around, the question I had asked to them was, hey, can you take a check here and look at the data types? And we see them moving in real time. I had said, I'm pretty sure we sublet at some point, so I think we might not have paid as much rent as we thought. Do you know the information about that? What year did we save that money in? And just like that, we actually just saw in real time Jen's cell here changed to 2000. Let's do that again real quick. Let's change the numbers up so they have a sense of what's happening. And as we keep manipulating the numbers, we'll see that the bar charts and the pie charts will actually be changing with the data itself. So you can drastically see in 2012, for example, the bar just dropped down, and then the bar shot back up. So just like that in real time, your teammates can work together. You can get those questions you need, and you are so far done with that annoying error message, that feeling of, I'm on a deadline, I budgeted these 30 minutes for this project, but my teammate locked me out of the documents. I am so excited to bring that to you guys today. This is a great capability. We know that people are loving it. Can I get a little clapping for this Excel? This is one of the most exciting things out here. We are stoked to bring this to you. Oh.
Does it require OneDrive to be the storage medium for the team to share the open access?
Yep. So that was what clouds have to be associated with, which is also a great plug for, yes, in the cloud naturally, for any folks that are hanging out on earlier versions of the products, no names being called. SharePoint and OneDrive will support this. So with that, let's keep on moving through our Office suite, and we'll hand it back to Disha.
Thank you, Scott. That was truly courageous and well done. All of you in the room, all this fun stuff is available to you in ProPlus. I'll say that, and then go on to PowerPoint. How many of you hate presenting? I hate presenting. Honestly, I'm scared of presenting. Every single time I come up to present, I'm worried about so many different things. I'm worried about the quality of my slides. Do I have a typo on there? I'm worried about how I will look presenting to people. I'm worried about, will I say the wrong thing on the wrong slide? I'm worried about other people who are just great presenters, people who just know how to present better, how to make beautiful slides. A little secret about me, I started in engineering, and then I became a marketer, and I was absolutely dumbfounded by the amazing slides my colleagues built in the new world. In engineering, we could put a few words of text on a slide, and everybody read it, and it was all good. In marketing, you had to actually market stuff. And so all of this innovation in PowerPoint, and I'm not going to talk to each one of these because I think Scott's going to walk through the demo, and that's going to be so much more impactful than me talking about them. All of this helps me look cool. It makes me a better presenter. It gives me a little more confidence about the quality of my slides. And more importantly, like when I do stuff like this at presentations, people come up to me afterwards and say, that was cool. How did you do that? My little secret, I didn't really do much. The product does a lot of it. So with that, Scott, handing it back to you.
All right, and as you might not be surprised in my demeanor, hopefully, I'm not too scared of presenting normally. I kind of have fun with this up here. But the problem is I can't have fun presenting to you if I don't have a good set of slides, a good demo. And the issue with that is you don't get to really focus on the right things if you don't have the right content in your deck. So a lot of the time, plenty of people, myself included, you're like, I know what I want to talk about, you have a bit of maybe the engineering approach that Disha was referencing before, or whomever you are and whatever type of worker you are. Like, I know the 3 bullets, but if I don't make this look good, it's not gonna matter. And I should be focusing on my story and really driving home our prioritization charts, whatever we're trying to accomplish. But instead, I'm here bogged down trying to figure out how do I make this simple white slide look interesting. And that's not what we really want you to worry about. We want you to feel empowered to focus on the things that matter, the story, the impact to your business and your customer. So let's think about a few quick and easy things that we can do with our experience called Designer. And you've probably seen a bit of this before. You've probably had a cup of Contoso coffee, it feels like by now. But it's really important to remember, some of you are on ProPlus, so you've kind of been familiar with this. Some of you have seen this in a few different sessions and just been like, man, why do they want us to drink so much coffee? It's really that we want everyone to understand it's time to deploy ProPlus, and then we can start making new slides, because we get to keep talking about even newer and more fun things, because we don't have to remind everyone in the room of some of the awesome stuff we've released in the past. But with that said, even though we've released some of this in the past, I'm going to show you a couple new tricks you might not have seen in other demos before. All right, so let's hop in here to our Contoso coffee. As you can see, simple, kind of dull slides. I don't get to present like this if my slides look like that. So let's fix this up a bit. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and insert a picture. And as we hop in here to our desktop, I've got a few set of pictures ready to go. I'm going to bring in these coffee beans here, kind of make that nice rich feeling. Organic, fair trade, of course, you know, love that. And on the right-hand side, it automatically pulled in our design ideas pane. So this is going up to the server, bringing together all different types of graphic design concepts that you get to pick now what feels right to you and how you like to approach your picture. So I like this one here. With the click of a button, we're already starting off strong. We've got a couple of cool looks to it. Let's move on to the next slide and see what we're working with here. All right, so we want to find that perfect grind. And we just took a look at inserting one picture. But something we've brought about a bit more recently is you can actually insert 2 pictures, and it'll be able to capture for you and understand what parts of those pictures are really what matters. As we scroll through here, we can see the images are actually cropping to the right portions of what's going on and what you want to focus on. So I picked this picture. I kind of like these color blocks here. And 2 cool things just happened without you even thinking about it necessarily. We actually cropped into notice that this barista is the important part of the picture on the bottom right. And then it picks up the color schemes. There's that brown and that red that fits in appropriately. I didn't tell it that. I didn't do any tricks in advance. It just understands this is probably the right color scheme for what you're trying to present. So now we've got a few pictures in mind. Let's go to some of that text I wrote out for myself. And we've got these simple bullets, which, again, it's the right information, but people aren't super interested sometimes in reading those slides. So we've got those great smart arts now instead. On the right-hand side here, again, I'll look for one I like. And I kind of like this nice dark black theme and kind of orange. Feels pretty cool to me. And again, we just took those simple bullets. It automatically recommended design ideas to us, nice and easy. So that was pretty simple to keep it interesting. And now the last one in this portion I want to show you, this is a bit of our newest Easter egg. We can actually put together timelines. And no matter what your role is, I guarantee you put together a timeline, such as your approach to how you're going to deploy ProPlus, how you're going to get buy-in from the rest of your team and your end users so you can warn them and they don't complain to you. And when you design that timeline, what do you think I'm going to say? It can look a little dull as a bullet point. And so now, for one of the first times ever, we can actually help you transform that timeline, which can feel so complicated to put together, into an all different set of engaging visual roadmaps. And that's pretty cool. It's much simpler to follow the process now and have a sense of what we're doing and where we're going together in our approach, whether it's deploying ProPlus or we're trying to design this new coffee cup. So that's pretty cool. That's one of our latest ways that we're actually using Designer. And the last step here that's pretty fun, I like to throw this in here because we had those earlier pictures. That's been around for a little while now. But there's all different ways that people like to interact now and get their stories across in their expression. We also have 3D models. So I'm going to go ahead here and actually pick from my file a 3D model because I want to show off an example of what you can do for this coffee cup design with my company. And as we go ahead and paste here, this is pretty cool. I have a full 3D model now working in PowerPoint, and this is all live working code. You can see every angle of it up and down. And I can go ahead and select, I want this angle in this spot so that my team can see, wow, you can even design things on the bottom, on the side. something I couldn't have done in the past with just a flat image. So just like that, we went from that simple, boring, basic white slide into a lot of interesting, engaging content all in real time. And if I weren't talking about this and explaining it, would have been done in about 20 seconds. I would have had everything I needed, and just like that, I can go back to focusing on the story, the information I want my audience to understand and have an engaging conversation with them about. So that's Designer and 3D. Let's take a look now at two of our other really cool features. So let's imagine we didn't start with that simple white slide. We were already feeling comfortable. We had a nice interior design set up for ourselves, and we were ready to go. Well, even if it looks nice, there's still a few extra things we can do to try to really kick things up a notch, to really show off to our colleagues a little bit, maybe to our customer, to make them feel more interested and engaged in the content. So what we're doing here as an interior design company is laying out a few different ways that maybe you can set up your dining room table. For example, depending on how big you wanted the table to be, or how many chairs you needed, how big your family is, how much you like to host friends, etc. So normally, as we just tap into our presentation mode here, oops. It just kind of goes through. It's sort of flat. It's a little dull, and it's not super interesting necessarily, but it's the right information. But with one tap of a button, we can actually go ahead and start creating a brand new transition type that we launched in the past. And it's called Morph. And I'm doing this in real time just so you see how simple it is. So I'm going to go ahead and just highlight all of the tables here together. Hit our Morph button. And just like that, we're getting ready to reimagine how we're actually going to tell this story. Back into presentation mode. And so that flat image you saw just a second ago, it starts moving, and it starts growing. And that content now has a rich kind of cinematic feel to it. I'm not a graphic design expert. I have no degree in this. I didn't even have to learn a ton about PowerPoint. I learned 2 clicks. And just like that, had I not shown you this trick, you'd be like, wow, this guy's pretty good. He's got an idea of what to do in this presentation. I think I'm going to buy 8 chairs now instead of 4. I'm going to drive home that sale. So just like that, with a few really simple steps, it's a great way to create a new conversation with your audience. Get them to trust you in a different way if presenting is sort of your bag and what you need. And the last step here I wanted to walk you through is something called Zoom. So let's go to the start of our presentation here. And let's imagine we're interacting together. We're having a bit of a sales pitch, and we're thinking about what you want to do with your interior design. Well, one of the first things you always see in maybe a sales pitch or even these meetings, it's an agenda slide. And I'm going to tell you what we're going to walk through, how we can plan this together, what materials are available to you. But sometimes people jump in and they're eager. Like, I don't even care about the human factors, you know. I'm a little robotic for whatever reason. I just care about the materials. Are they going to be metal? Hence that robot idea. They look like wood. I'm like, all right, calm down. We'll figure out what the materials are first. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just click materials. It zooms right in. Instead of a simple agenda slide, I now have a living, breathing table of contents. And then when I'm done, it pulls me right back to that slide, and I can find out more information. And now that you've seen the materials, you're like, all right, we can see the human factors. Some people are going to care about that. And again, you can just cycle through this information. There's our morph from before, easily available to us. So with these Zoom capabilities, Designer we showed a moment ago, and Morph, it really doesn't take that much anymore to create a beautiful, engaging conversation all around your presentation. And why does that matter? Like I've been saying, it's all about focusing on the story you want to tell and amplifying your creativity in the document and your creation so that what you actually care about, which may or may not be selling that 4th chair, or it's that timeline that you've been talking about in the bullets before, you get to focus on it without feeling distracted in your workload in advance of creating the presentation. And that's PowerPoint. So let's hand it back to Disha. We'll talk about Outlook, and then we're just about wrapped up with our demo.
All right, I don't know if I have to say more. That is some impressive presenting, and that is some impressive capabilities. And the reason I decided to hit off all of this in today's session is that I didn't want to show you guys one thing with Word and one thing with Excel and one thing with PowerPoint. There really is a ton of richness, right? I just skimmed some of the things that I thought were cool, And Scott and I worked on those together, and that's what we're showing to you. But like I said, there's just so much more. We're probably going to hit one more demo for Outlook, and then we're going to talk about ProPlus once again. So with that, I'll move on to Outlook. As you all know, email is dead. Long live email. So let's talk about the Outlook, which is the most used app in this room.
All right, so just like Disha said, we're all using Outlook. When we put up our hands before to say what apps do we use, everybody raised their hand for Outlook. And when I go into just one meeting, or even a back-to-back meeting, I come back and there's 20 emails. I'm like, oh God, there's a lot to do here. Is anybody else kind of dreading going back to work on Monday, if for no other reason than I am going to have so many emails? Yeah, I see some nods, some laughs. That's how I'm feeling, and I've been trying to triage throughout the day where I can, but that's not the point of this conference. The point of the conference is to meet each other, learn a lot of what's happening in the Microsoft world, and from fellow users like yourselves. But we've been bringing together some new features in the Outlook family to help you start to think through, are these 100 emails where I have to do something? Or are there probably 10 that really need me, Scott Shapiro, to take an action? And we've created @notifications to make it easier to collaborate with your teammates and indicate who needs to really take action in a piece of mail, for example. So here, we're playing the role of my esteemed colleague, Megan Bowen. I'll take on her persona for a moment. And inside of my inbox, as I've just gotten back from my conference, I'm feeling like, wow, I've got a lot of emails to work through. As I look through the center column here, I notice a few of those @notifications right in here, and I'm thinking, that looks like there's a lot of information right there. And those @notifications mean somebody tagged me. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. I don't even want to look through the hundreds of mails I've already gotten. So I'm going to filter this down right away up here, and I'm going to go to mentioned mail. And mentioned mail is usually my best indicator that somebody needs me to actually take an action because I've been tagged in this process. So I would have to then go ahead and actually interact with them instead of putting it on the bit of the back burner with some of those other mails. And in my mail here, it looks like my teammate Lynn is saying, Megan, can you review this for the product truth? I'm like, generally, I would say, of course, I'd love to help you out. Fortunately, Lynn, I'm at the conference, so I can't help her. But I bet our teammate, watch this, we're just hitting the @ symbol, Deborah, can help out. So just like that, in line, I went from having a notification telling me I need to do something to acknowledging the mail, realizing this is something I should triage, but I can't fix the problem completely right now. I'm going to just pass the buck to Deborah. And now she knows she has an action item. Hopefully she's not at the conference, or I'm going to be in some hot water when I get back. But just like that, we'll send the mail. And it's super easy to have triaged and understand that 100 mails can sometimes really only mean 10 need any of your attention whatsoever. And that's pretty cool, these @notifications, to really help you interact and collaborate with your different teammates out there and different projects that you get. So that's live now. You've also probably seen some hints here and there that we're bringing @notifications to broader areas. You'll probably see some of that in the rest of the Office suite pretty soon. I'm just going to tip my hat to that for now. No more specifics, but I know I'm super stoked to see that permutating everywhere else. So that's a bit of the @notification area. So as I close off Outlook here in the desktop, I'm going to move us actually to Outlook in a web app. And this is my personal, real inbox you're looking at here. And when we're at this conference, I just said a moment ago, a lot of what we're doing is interacting with each other, getting business cards, trying to connect. And while that's awesome, it's easy to sometimes lose a face, lose a name, lose a business card. But maybe that other person sends you a mail, and they check it on you, and they remember to follow up on that great idea you guys had on Wednesday afternoon. Well, now we can bring that concept here to the web place with Outlook. So Lori is a real teammate of mine. She was an MBA hire that just joined fresh out of college to Microsoft. And she's working in the education space, which is an area I used to work in. So she reached out to me. She set up some time to see, what do I know? How can I get her up to speed faster? Now, normally, you're all familiar with our profile cards. You would hover over, and I would learn such great information as what her email address is, which I knew because she emailed me. So that was something. Oh, I see her office. She's actually right around the hall, so we don't need to find a room. It's easy to talk to each other. But I'd rather know a little more about her and maybe how we overlap. So let's hover over her contact card and see what we can learn these days. So the shiny blue button, I think some of your eyes are probably going to pretty fast, is this new LinkedIn button. I don't know if you heard, but Microsoft acquired a pretty big company over the past year. It's this little guy called LinkedIn. They help out a lot with pulling in information and understanding people's backgrounds and what they work on. Well, now that I have her LinkedIn profile attached with her contact card and I can interact with her, all of her public information is now available to me to understand a bit of who she is and get a good background. I can see here she's only been at Microsoft a couple of months, so maybe you don't use so many acronyms like we're all so wont to do as employees. I can notice, oh, looks like she went to University of Chicago. I actually went to school in the Midwest myself, so that's a good talking point. Put her at ease as a new employee, which is good. And now that I have a bit of a sense of maybe how she'll approach some problems in her background, I want to see who else she works with. And we've had it for a while in our organizational view, of course, sort of the chain of command. We can see who her managers are, et cetera. But a cool thing where, by contrast, LinkedIn was pulling in information from the broad world over on the web, we can actually see her other colleagues here, which is pulling information inside of the Microsoft graph. And I can see who she's interacting with most likely on a day-to-day basis. I see some familiar faces here, like my teammates Ari and Frank I used to work with in my EDU days. So I can start to connect dots for her and give her a good sense of who else she might want to work with. And so now we have a sense of those informations. Let's drill down to how we've been interacting with each other to get up to speed. Right before our meeting we have together, I want to review my emails real quick, get a big sense of what she wants in advance, how I can help her. I noticed she's asking me some benefits of OneNote, which some of you might love in your workforce. It's also hugely popular in our EDU world. So at a quick glance, I have a good sense again of, like, what was that conversation we were having? OK, now I can head into the meeting with the right mind space. And the final trick up my sleeve, as I head into files, I actually can find any deck and document we've sent to each other in the past. So then I can just open up that document ahead of the meeting and be ready to jump in right away and not be fiddling with dongles and trying to pull in content, et cetera. So just like that, as we've integrated LinkedIn into our profile card experience, you're bringing information from the outside world to give you a 360-degree view of who that person is, and we're combining it with internal Microsoft graph knowledge that your operation is completely in control of. You can turn these things on or off, of course, IT controls, but you have a much better sense now heading into that meeting of who Lori is and how you're going to be able to work together. And so with that, that wraps up our demo portion, and I think Disha will walk us through a couple last thoughts on ProPlus.
All right, guys. So going back to my slide, I told you guys it's time to deploy ProPlus, and I said there were 3 reasons, right? There was the exciting end-user innovation. That's the piece we covered. There's just a ton more in the apps you know and love. It's easy to find. It's easy to use. Scott showed us some amazing functionality, and all of it is meant to make you look good, to make you look cool. And the key thing to know about this functionality is it's powered by the cloud, which is why it's in ProPlus. It is powered by the cloud. There's services working in the background telling you that right design. There's services working in the background which are looking at your data and saying, this is the insightful piece of that data, right? And that's why this shows up only in ProPlus. Now, the other 2 reasons that I talk about here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. There's a ton of sessions that I would love for you guys to go attend. There's a slide at the end that I'll show you with those sessions, which talk about intelligent security, and they talk about proactive management. And there is, like I said, there is an imperative for your organization across your end users who are demanding more functionality, across the world, which is actually demanding more security because threats are multiplying, and across yourselves, IT. You want to make sure that you're on top of stuff, and that piece is really around proactive management. So who can tell me why it's time to deploy ProPlus? One-word answer. Anyone? Cheese. Your cheese is moving. Whether you like it or not, your cheese is moving. So go deploy ProPlus. It's right for your end users. It's right for you. It's right for the organization. There's a bunch of other slides I feel like I should skip over. I'm just going to talk about this. You're not the only ones. This is not an untested new solution. This is something that's been around for a while, and there's lots and lots of other companies that have adopted it as well. Again, there's case studies on our site. Go read them if you need more comfort, if you need to understand what problems it solved for people. But there's a lot of people who've already opted in to this innovation, and you should too. There's also the service called Fast Track, for those of you who haven't heard about it. Again, there's an area in the expo that you can go and talk to them all day long. There's a bunch of sessions about the service. It scales all of M365. It also has a ProPlus track within it. What is really important is we hold your hand. We help you deploy ProPlus, and we help you with getting out of where you are in a perpetual world into the cloud world where you can actually meet threats, end user demands, and your own needs much better. This is your opportunity. And I'll just go to the slide which talks about all these different sessions. If you're really interested, you can come up here, take a note of which sessions there are, and attend some of them. Q&A. Yes. Oh, by the way, before I actually take a question, I will say there are some friends of ours out here who are from the engineering team, who are here to help answer questions. There's a bunch of people here, John, Amish, David. They're all from our engineering teams. Jen and Dave, who's walking away now, are from our product marketing team. Please go ahead and ask questions. If I don't know the answer, one of them will answer.
Awesome. I actually got a ton of questions, so I'll just limit to two. The first one being all the features that Scott, you demoed. They are awesome. Are they based upon licensing models? Because we've got E1, E3, and E5 licensing models there. Some of the features may not, or some of the applications may not be available. Are they available for everybody? Because we are saving costs on deploying different license models depending on what our users use. So that's the first one. The second one being, I'm actually leading the project of deploying Office 2016 to our organization right now. We're not a big organization, 12,700 people. One of the Heinz Craft, you saw the company over there. We are part of Berkshire Hathaway as well, so as Heinz and Kraft. One of the major issues we have is application incompatibility. So SAP EPM add-in, which is used by 600 people for SAP HANA, is not ready until January of next year. So we are kind of at a board of stopping 600 people with Office 2016. So what are the options or suggestions that you all have? Might be two different groups. I'm happy to hang around and ask
So yeah, I would say the first one, yes, there's a licensing implication, but it isn't that you would have a different set of functions from the ones that we showed within E3 and E5. As long as you're an E3 or E5 and you've bought ProPlus as part of it, this functionality will show up. All of the functionality we showed you today wasn't differentiated between E3 and E5. E1 doesn't have ProPlus, so if you don't have ProPlus, then you don't have this functionality. To the second one, it feels like a very lengthy question and a very detailed one. I'll point you to our colleagues over here. The thing that I will say to you is app compatibility is an area that we're taking really, really seriously. We're working really hard between Office and Windows to make sure that you can proactively see which apps are compatible, which apps are at risk, which apps are not. And you should, for your very specific question, you should talk to our colleagues over here, and they will be able to answer.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
So on the PowerPoint functionality,
Morph.
do you have to use a certain type of image?
Nope. Nope, everything works perfectly. It's just a real simple, as you put the image in, you then copy the slide to the next ones to indicate that they're working together. And however you then manipulate it, make that chair giant, make it small, it'll automatically move with it.
You can do it at any skill level. My cheese moved because it was the same picture of cheese at different sizes in 3 slides, so just to be clear.
We currently have a SharePoint on-prem, SharePoint 2013, and we're looking to go to Office 365. So this might be a dumb question for everybody else, but if you are using Office 365, are you using Office ProPlus when you're doing Excel, Word, PowerPoint, or is that different?
Slightly different. So there's the server-side technology and there's the client-side technology. If you're using Office 365, that is kind of the giant umbrella within which the server-side stuff sits, as well as the client-side stuff sits. So typically, organizations that are deploying Office 365 would go to Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, to the server side or services side of stuff first, right? Which means the back end for all the services is the Microsoft backend, and you're not hosting your own servers anymore. Microsoft's doing that stuff for you. And then the next step typically happens to be the desktop piece, which is what we talked about, which is your client apps are now ProPlus. Does that make sense?
Earlier is that it's available on OneDrive and SharePoint Online, not SharePoint on
You showed these 3D objects.
Yeah.
Now, how do I transform my photos, my objects into 3D objects? Do I have to invest in some new technology to do this? How does it go?
You do invest in new technology, but the fun part is it's generally free. So you could actually just use something as simple as 3D Paint, which is built in as a free app to Microsoft Windows right now in Windows 10. And you can start importing different files to manipulate, or you can be creating your own inside of it. And then once you have that creation inside of the 3D Paint, you can just use it like you would any other file type to just insert it straight into your document. Or we also have what we call a 3D Remix. It's an online community where you can find different people's content they've put out there, and some have varying licenses of availability or exclusivity.
Designer, the PowerPoint designer stuff. I don't know whether we have something up on a site about it.
We have general support articles for it, and we have blogs where we've like written more of like the fun marketing side of it as well. Oh,
We
yeah,
probably
that's
have
part-
those
okay.
as well.
Actually, there's a special site that was designed to show Designer, Morph, and Zoom all together in one place, and it's is it PowerPoint Stories?
I don't know.
We can get you the actual site for that if you're interested.
Yeah, you can come take one of our email IDs. We'll happily send you that site.